there in YouTube land. This is Forrest coming to you again, River City Trucking. And I just want to talk today a little bit about something that I know some of you, especially the ones that are already in Hotshot Trucking, some that are thinking about it, you probably already thought about this, right? And that is the fact that it seems like that the FMCSA is like picking on hotshot truckers. And with all these rules and regulations, well, all those rules and regulations, they all come from the Congress. They come from the House and then on to the Senate, and they pass a law. And the FMCSA, what it does is through the Department of Transportation is it administers those laws. They're the ones that enforce them, right? So don't get mad at them. If you want to get mad at somebody, get mad at Washington. Now here's the problem. Hotshotting has been around for a long time. It's become popular in the last, say, 5 years or 4 years or whatever, and mostly because of YouTube. You got people out there like Load Miser, and you have, of course, you have Alex over at Toe Piglet, and some of these really big YouTubers, and there's a bunch more. I'm not leaving anybody out here, but just using them as an example. And they've really shined a light on what hotshotters do and the valuable service that hotshotting does inside of the transportation of goods and services all over the country, right? So when you look at it, you think to yourself, well, with this rule and that rule, and how much longer can I stay in business as long as I'm doing these rules? I agree with that. I totally agree with that. Now, to those ends, I think what we have going on here is that because of the notoriety that they're getting, it's not like the big trucking companies, the big guys that are running the semi-tractors up and down the road. It's not like they're, it's not like they've been oblivious all this time, but it's becoming bigger and bigger, right? They're seeing more and more of their freight go away, and it's because of two things, in my opinion. It's because of two things that are happening out there. Some manufacturing today is no longer being done by these big whopper companies. Some of this manufacturing out there today that transports and that they need their goods transported is getting smaller. And because they're getting smaller, they don't need to wait on a 53-foot long truck or flatbed to come in and get their goods to go deliver them to market, right? They have much smaller loads that they can say, hey, let's get it there now. I would love to have it go from my shop to this guy's garage or this guy's business in a lot shorter period of time without waiting till they get a 53-foot truck, and then the 53-foot truck, almost stumbled over that pretty good, has to go and make 3 or 4 stops before it gets to the customer. But the reality is this. The big boys feel it, right? The more millions and millions of dollars are poured through the hotshot industry, they're coming out of the wallets of the big guys. And I won't mention any names because, who wants to get sued these days? But we know who they are. And those guys hire lobbyists. And then those lobbyists go to Washington and they whisper in the ear of some congressman who knows nothing about transportation, never even been in a hotshot truck or a tractor trailer, doesn't know anything about how goods are delivered or anything. This guy's sitting in an ivory tower most of his life. He has no idea. And they say, it'd make a good idea to make the roads safer for your constituents if you did X, Y, or Z. And the guy goes, yeah. And he said, if you did this, if you had these laws, man, your constituents would love you. You could go on record as saying so-and-so. And by the way, how did you like that $1 million we gave your campaign last time? Exactly. So that kind of sets things up, right? So then they pass these laws, and of course the FMCSA gets involved, and they come down on you, and they have the DOT, man, they're all over you, they're checking you, they're doing all this kind of stuff. And now what's the big push? The big push is to get everybody everybody having a CDL. Ultimately, they want everyone to have a CDL. They want the hotshotters having CDLs, they want the tractor trailers having CDLs, and why are they pushing that? The reason they're pushing that is because if you have to go out and get a CDL, you have more invested in it, right? Exactly. Now, used to, like here in Florida, you could go down, you go to the driver's license place, and you went down there and you took your test down at the driver's license place, and then they had, certified training areas that you went and you you did the driving skill, right? And you paid your $300 or whatever it is, you did that. So, $400 or so, you could have your CDL. So now what's coming? February the 7th of next year, what's coming is from that date forward, you'll have to go and take the whole class. $5,000 to $6,000. $5,000 to $6,000, depending where you're at. Most of them around in Florida are $5,000 to $6,000. And what did they do? They added a whole lot more stuff to it. And the reason they did that was because then they could justify you having to go to class to do it. If they left it like it was, you're thinking, well, why do I have to go to class? You just got to know this, that, and the other thing about the air brakes and so forth and pass the written part. And then I got to go over be able to back the truck up into an alley and do the other things they tell you to do, right? So why do I need to go to a class for all that? That's why they added all that other stuff. They can tell you whatever they want. It's not going to make the road any safer. In fact, if you look at the numbers of hotshot accidents and what the damage is caused during hotshotting, and then look at the numbers on CDL semi-tractor trailer driving, and look what happens over there, right? And here's the thing. Keep in mind that Swift and Warren and some of these other big ones out there, they have their own schools that you go through. You sign up for the place, you work there for a year or whatever the heck you're signing up to, and they show you how to drive, you go through the class, they give you everything you got to have, and you're guaranteed a CDL. In fact, most of these schools today will tell you they'll tell you right up front, if you go to the school, we guarantee you a CDL. They don't say, if you're good enough, you get a CDL. They say, we guarantee you get a CDL. So who makes out like a bandit? The truck driving schools and the big truck driving companies out there. And therefore, if they could push it, listen, if they could push it to where everybody driving hotshot with a dually and a trailer, or a single axle or single rear wheel and a trailer, if they could push that on you, they would. But you know what's stopping it? The RV industry. Because think about it. Think about it. Most of these RVs run around and they're under 26,000 pounds, right? So they're not having to worry about CDL. And I personally believe that's where that 26,000 pounds came from. The RV industry, which is, man, they spend a walking ton of money on getting people elected in Washington. I'm going to tell you now, if you look at those numbers, they're staggering. They're tens of millions of dollars they spend for putting people in there so they can get legislation passed that aids them in their industry. And so if they passed a law that said, okay, anything over 10,000 pounds, you have to have a CDL, you know, there's a lot of people in Washington, they're in the Senate, there's a lot of people in your state legislatures, there's a lot of governors, there's a lot of people in the House of Representatives in Washington, a lot of people in government in general that have a lot of big old giant RVs. And those people don't want to have to go out and pass a CDL test. They don't want to have to qualify and do any of that. That's why that window sits there. So it just kills them when they see a non-CDL hotshot driver rolling down the road with 10,000 pounds of cargo that some semi-tractor trailer should have had on it. It eats them alive. So they whisper in the ear of their guy that they give all that money to in Washington, and then what happens? They start passing laws to try and hone down what the effect on the hotshot industry, on the CDL driver, you know, semi-tractor trailer industry. Now, I'm going to do a video on my opinion on the difference between non-CDL and CDL hotshotting. And I mean, I can see my way to the CDL hotshotting, obviously, right? So that's the thing. When you look at the CDLs and the non-CDL hotshotters, the CDL hotshotters are still going to have things that are going to affect them. So even if you have a CDL out there and you're hotshotting, don't think that these laws are not coming to help to suppress your capability of having business too. There's all sorts of things that I've heard of that are, you know, rumors. Just like the rumor of February 7th coming, that was a big rumor up until about a month or so ago. The next thing we know, they are confirming that this is really happening. But anyway, that's just my opinion, and it's about the hotshot business and what's to come. Happy trucking.